Hello everyone, welcome to Manika IAS. Welcome to the daily news analysis session of Manika IAS. So we'll be discussing about today's newspaper, but before we proceed, let's see the topics that we'll be discussing today. And we have also released a session on how to cover your newspaper since many of you were asking about it. And I hope you must have liked it. If you some of you have not seen it, kindly see that video. That will be very helpful for you in your daily newspaper coverage. I'll be giving you the link in the description or somewhere on the top as well. So do read that, view that session as well. Now let's discuss what are the topics for today. So the topics, these are the five topics that we'll be discussing. सबसे पहले we'll be taking minority status for Aligarh Muslim University. So about this topic we have discussed many a times with respect to the case and the pronouncement of the case and the question which are being raised. But however, today we'll look into the historical aspects, and we'll also see the questions that were raised. What is the fundamental question with respect to the case? We have already covered Article 30. Again, I'll be giving the link in the description if you have not covered. Slightly we'll touch this article also today, but in detail we have already covered. I'll provide you with the link. Then we'll discuss about the snowfall in this particular year. These winters we have received less rainfall and less snowfall in your northern areas. So we'll discuss about the reasons, and here we'll discuss the three more important concepts, which are your Western disturbances. Then we'll discuss El Nino and its impact on rainfall. And then we'll also discuss about jet streams. Okay. Then coming to the next topic, which is this. This is the moon lander mission by Japan. So we'll be covering this topic and we'll also do a comparison with Chandrayaan. Okay. So we'll cover this. Then India-France relation. So France was an invitee. The president of France, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, was the special invitee for Republic Day. So there they also discussed about the defense ties. We'll discuss about that. And this is a topic which is related to the Balkis Banu case that we have been discussing in the recent past. But here we'll touch upon the ethical point of view of the case, plus some justice and the punitive mechanism. So we'll be discussing about these concepts here. This is more relevant with your GS paper 4, but let's see the very first topic, which is your minority status for the Aligarh Muslim University. So as we all know, the case is being heard by a 7-judge bench headed by Chief Justice of India, Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud, and it's in the court since last 57 years. So we'll be discussing about the course, the what are the questions being raised. But before, let's briefly go to Article 30. So what does the Article 30 says? Article 30 says all the religious and linguistic minorities of India have a right to establish and administer their own education institutions. Right. Now this is the right with respect to religious and linguistic minorities, and Muslims are also linguistic and religious minority in India. Okay. And what are these institutions? When we are saying education institutions, what are these institutions covering? They are covering education institutions at all levels, ranging from primary schools to professional, and it also deals with employment as well as the students who are studying there. Okay, to whom imparting the education and the one who are giving the education. Okay, so how, and these institutions are also exempted from the compulsory SC/ST reservations. Okay, so they are exempted from that 16 clause 4 reservation under 16 clause 4 as well. Now And they can also reserve the seats up to 50% for students from their community and exercise greater control over employees compared to other institutions. So these are the privileges which are guaranteed by the Constitution of India to the religious and linguistic minority, and the purpose is to promote them and promote their diversity to make them feel safe within a larger majority group. Okay, so another case, it was TMA Pi Foundation in 2002. In this case, Supreme Court has held that a minority is to be determined by the concerned state demography, and it should not be based on the national population. So, say for example, what does this imply? You have a state, say X. I'm not naming any state. In that particular state, so the population of Hindu is say 60%, Muslim is say 20%, Christianity, say Christians say 20%. So this is a majority group and these are minority groups. Now you take another example of this is with respect to state X, and then if you take example with respect to state Y, in which you have Christianity at say 80%, Muslim population say 10%, Hindu population say 10%. So here Christians are majority, whereas these are minority. So as per the TMAPI judgment, the Supreme Court held that the minority should be decided on the basis of their population within a particular state and not on the national basis. Okay. So this was the judgment. So you remember this. This is with respect to your Article 30. Okay. Now let's move to the background of the case. How did it happen that the case eventually landed up in the Supreme Court? So, what happened? Let's begin 1877. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he founded Mohammedan Anglo Oriental College. Okay, to promote Muslim education, education among Muslims, to promote that, it was founded by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. This is very important for your prelims point of view, and we generally read it in our history as well. So it was incorporated into Aligarh Muslim University in 1920 by the Aligarh Muslim University Act 1920. Okay, so this is the beginning of this case. Now, what happened in 1951? An Amendment Act was produced, which removed the compulsory religious education for Muslims and exclusive Muslim representation mandate in the university. ठीक है, तो उसने ये प्रोविजंस हटा दिया कि देयर विल बी compulsory education, religious education is not mandatory. So this was removed by Aligarh Muslim University Act. Now, and as we have seen in 1920, the particular Mohammedan Anglo Oriental College was brought under the ambit of Aligarh Muslim University. So it was basically brought under the statute. Okay. Now, in 1965, it was again amendment, and the power of court was redistributed among bodies such as executive, President of India, with respect to nominating members to the governing body. Okay, then they also curtailed the power of courts. So these were the amendment which was brought in. One thing, आपको you do not need to remember these amendments. कुछ याद रखने का जरूरत नहीं है. This is just to build a perspective कि what happened, what were the series of event occurred. Okay, why the case is presently in court. Okay, so this is only to build your perspective. Okay, you need not remember the integrities of these amendments and everything. But finally, in 1967, what happened? That S. Aziz Basha versus Union of India case landed up in Supreme Court. The amendment were challenged in this court, arguing that Muslims having established AMU had the right to manage it. क्योंकि यहाँ पे आपने एक्सक्लूसिव रिप्रेजेंटेशन ले लिया ना वहाँ से, so they were expecting कि क्योंकि मुस्लिम्स के लिए एजुकेशन है तो they do have a right to represent it. Now, in 1981, the AMU Act was further amended to affirm university minority status after protest and challenges. In 1981, they restored the minority status for the university. Okay. In 2005, the Allahabad High Court struck down the reservation policy for Muslim candidates, leading to legal proceedings. And in 2005, when the case was in Allahabad High Court, it struck down the mandatory Muslim representation in the university, and as a result of which, further litigation happened. and the case finally landed up in the Supreme Court. And what happened in Supreme Court? Right now, there are two questions that Supreme Court is essentially trying to answer with respect to Article 30, also with respect to Aligarh Muslim University as well. So we'll be dealing with the fundamental questions. Okay. The criteria for determining minority status of an education institutions. So what is the primarily the criteria to understand whether this is a educational minority institution or not? So this is the first question that the Supreme Court is trying to answer. And the second question is institution established under a statute, okay, like the one can enjoy minority status or not. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल माइनॉरिटी स्टेटस हमने जैसे पहले भी डिस्कस किया था फॉर टू एस्टैब्लिश अ माइनॉरिटी स्टेटस how much it is necessary for it to be brought under a statute or and if a institution is set up under a statute under a law of the government, then why is it considered it should be a minority institution or it should not be a minority institution? These are the two questions that the government is trying to answer. Okay. Now petitioners ने अभी क्या बोला है? They are saying that AMU is entitled to minority status while Union Government of India says that it is not entitled to minority status as per 1967 judgment. Okay. Now what are the legal arguments? What are the legal arguments? It says that state aid do not deprive any education institution of a minority character. ठीक है. It is saying statutory regulation, if you regulate through any sort of statute or aid any sort of minority institution, it does not take away the minority character of that institution. And here you must understand that we discussed that there are three types of minority institutions. Earlier also we have discussed one, institutions that are the, the seeking aid funds and are registered under the by the government. Then there are one who are only seeking administration control but not aided, and then there are one who are not seeking any administration control or they are not who are funded also by the government. These are the three classification of the uh, education institution, and in the first two we discussed that the one who are either seeking recognition or either seeking funds, these two are subjected to regulatory control of the government. Whereas the third one, which is neither seeking recognition nor seeking aid from the government, are not subjected to the recommendations or regulatory control of the government. So these are the three type of institution that we discussed. Now, according to this judgment, which will be delivered in a while because the court is hearing the case, so we might see some sort of changes with respect to this, but this is what we used to refer to. Now now the court is trying to answer such questions as we discussed here. What Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, he has said that it is the university, the college itself, that gave its Muslim character, that gave its religious character, and adopted a secular character by coming under 1920 Act, AMU Act. Okay, so this is the stand as of now of the representation by given by the Union Ministry. Okay, so as of now the judgment is not yet delivered and we are still waiting for the judgment. Let's see what kind of judgment is coming, and please follow this judgment because this will be important with respect to your understanding, and some changes can come surrounding your polity as well with respect to Article 30 of Indian Constitution. So follow this judgment. Now let's move to the next article, which is your snowfall in Kashmir. Okay, or per se in northern India. So this year there have been very less snowfall and rain, as a result of which tourism activities in the northern part of India has been impacted. And we all know that somewhere near New Year's now we used to see like roads full of snow. So this year the snow cover was very less. There was no literally no snowfall at all. So that is what we are discussing here. Ki why is it so? Why there was no rain, less rainfall, and less snowfall this year? So now, if you see the data, Himachal Pradesh has registered its driest January since 1901 with 99.7% shortfall in January rain compared to what it is normal. Okay, so this is the driest. सबसे ज़्यादा सूखा पड़ा है इस बार. सबसे कम रेनफॉल हुई है. If you compare it, the last was 1901. Okay, so now, what is the need for snowfall to occur? What is the primarily important thing for snowfall to occur? It require adequate moisture, which comes through rainfall. अब रेनफॉल ही नहीं होगा तो स्नोफॉल कहाँ से होगा? As well as atmospheric temperature to be 0 degrees or less. अब नदर्न इंडिया के अंदर although the temperature was very low, the temperature was very low and despite this there was low snowfall due to various reasons. देखो, दो condition है for snowfall to occur. There are two conditions. One is that you need more rainfall, you need more moisture, and then you need temperature sub-zero temperatures. So although the temperatures were sub-zero, there were very low temperatures, but still the rainfall didn't occur due to various reasons, and one of the reason being is your western disturbances. So before we proceed, what are western disturbances? See, western disturbances are kind of a winds which are coming from Mediterranean Sea, or you can say mid latitude, and it comes to this part of India. Okay, in northern part of India, and it is responsible for bringing your heavy rainfalls, winter rainfalls, and if the temperature went sub-zero, then it will lead to snowfall. This is the general mechanism. And in general, every year, if you see between December to January, you generally have 6 to 7 episodes of western disturbances. Okay. But in this particular year, we didn't witness any sort of western disturbances. If 1 or 2 episodes of western disturbances occur, it only confined themselves to the region of this region, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat. It didn't go in the higher in the northern region. Okay, so what happened? Western disturbances in winter, how do they behave? They dissipate the fog and they increase the sunshine, leading to the raising temperature. Okay, and if, as we discussed, if the temperature are low, they are responsible for snowfall. Okay, and as the snowfall occurs, the melting water that led to increase in water levels in your Ganga Brahmaputra due to melting of glaciers as well. So that is secondary thing, but the primarily thing when it comes to snowfall due to western disturbances, in very simple terms, the temperature and the rainfall increases and the snowfall as a result of sub-zero temperatures increases. And in this year, we have witnessed that there were very less or negligible episodes of western disturbances. Okay. Now, if you see, this year was an El Nino year. This is the second reason which is responsible for your less snowfall. Now, generally, El Nino is responsible to bring in more rainfall and snowfall. However, despite this being an El Nino year, there was less episodes of rainfall and snowfall. One, because there was less western disturbances. Second, aided by global warming and changing climatic patterns. As a result of which, it might happen that in the month of February, as in last year, we can see winter rainfall, which will then harm the agriculture crop. Your rabi crop can be harmed because of this. But before we proceed, let us understand what is El Nino. See, if you see this map, in general, what happened? This is your Australia. This is South America. Here you have colder conditions, and here you have warmer, as a result of which the water will flow from this to this area. Okay, and this in turn will improve southwest monsoon in India in normally. But in El Nino year, what happened? This phenomena get reversed, and you have weakened trade winds. Now, this weekend trade winds in turn impact your western disturbances. Okay, so now instead of water moving from this direction to this, it will move to this direction, leading to a warmer Pacific Ocean. ठीक है? So this is with respect to your El Nino, and the 2023 is your hottest Dece- December. Sorry. Now, if you see, there is an absence of strong jet stream. ठीक है? This year as well. Jet streams, they are the high altitude winds. So if you see, if suppose this is your Earth, ठीक है? The winds which are lying near the surface are normal winds, and the winds which are high in altitude, in height, the upper winds, they are referred to as jet streams. ठीक है? They bring moisture generally from the Arabian Sea. ठीक है? However, uh, in the recent years, jet streams are shifting towards the northward, which is leading to warmer Arctic seas, and hence there are less rainfall and there are less sort of snowfall. And it is also responsible for flash floods kind of situation, as we discussed in the February. Okay, so this was about your the change in climatic pattern. Okay. Now let's move to the next topic, which is your smart lender for investigating moon. Now this is a mission by Japan, and the purpose is to study the moon. And now Japan has become the fifth country to soft land a robotic instrument on the moon. So last we did was Chandrayaan. We did Chandrayaan 3. ठीक है? We did Chandrayaan 3, and now Japan has become the fifth country after uh, to become to soft land its robot in on the and this is the Shioli crater, which is the site of landing. Okay, so it has landed, and Japan has also said that the Chandrayaan 3 was helpful for the robotic instrument to land. Okay, now in this particular article, we'll be focusing more on the differentiation between Chandrayaan 3 and SLIM, because this area can be a potential question for your exam, because this is very important, as India has achieved a landmark in landing the Chandrayaan 3 this year, and also you have this particular, and in Chandrayaan 4, in Chandrayaan 4, Japan and India are collaborating. Okay, so this comparison can be important with respect to your prelims and your mains as well. So if you see the properties, now if you see Chandrayaan 3 weight was approximately 4000 kgs. However, it is a very lightweight instrument, which is your 590 kgs. Now, why is it so? Why is the difference between these two weights? The reason being, it is carrying very less fuel. And however, Chandrayaan 3 is carrying more fuel. And you will also understand as we will go further that why there was need of less fuel with respect to this Japan Slim, and Chandrayaan 3 needed more fuel because of the trajectory they'll be following. So ours took approximately 1 month or so to reach to the orbit of moon, but however this took approximately 4 months, and it is only because that it was light in weight and the trajectory that it followed. ठीक है? So light in weight. Okay. So now if you see the route, R will be it went into home and transfer orbit, but it took the more fuel thrifty route, which is based on weak stability boundary theory. See, now let's discuss their routes. We'll discuss now what happened in Chandrayaan. Once launched into the orbit around the Earth, it swung around the planet and built up kinetic energy. and at the appropriate speed it shot up in the moon orbit. So this is your earth, this is your earth, this is your moon. Now just see this. This is your earth, this is your moon. It was centered to the orbit around the earth. Now it kept on swinging, swinging, swinging. It gathers a kind of kinetic energy, and when it gathered enough amount of kinetic energy, and since Chandrayaan was heavier, it was easier to for it to catch that momentum, and it was shot to enter into the moon's orbit, and it eventually entered the moon orbit. Okay. However, when you talk about this slim, after it gathered enough amount of kinetic energy, once it took more amount to gather the kinetic energy, and then it was shot up in the sky to reach near the moon. However, the catch is that when we are reaching the moon with respect to Chandrayaan, the Chandrayaan was thought to apply brakes. Why the brakes were necessary? So that it reduces the speed and it enters the moon's gravitational orbit. ठीक है? And to apply these brakes, we needed more fuel, and that's why ours were heavy. However, they follow the thrifty route, which is based on weak stability. Weak stability because they were not able to control the route here, because they had less fuel. They didn't waited for it to apply brakes, and it went somewhere in this space. And then after, it was designed in such a way that when it will automatically started slowing down naturally, it will come near the moon, and then it entered the moon orbit. This was the difference in the path. So it was light in weight and needed less fuel because it did not need to apply the brakes which were required in order to get into the gravitational orbit of the moon. Okay, so this was the difference. Now, as we have discussed this, now we'll discuss the landing, about the landing sport. So if you see, with respect to India, the Chandrayaan Vikram lander of Chandrayaan 3 was designed to elliptical area in 4 kilometer long downrange and 2 kilometer wide. So it was like we had this sport 4 kilometer and 2.5. सो दिस वॉज द एक्सपेक्टेड एरिया कि अगर हमें यहाँ जाना है तो हमने इतना स्पेस रखा था कि अगर हम इस स्पेस के अंदर भी लैंड करते हैं इट इज स्टिल फाइन. हावेवर, इसको मून स्पाइनर स्निपर बोलते हैं, मून स्निपर. मून स्निपर. Why? Because they had kept a distance of only 100 meters. If this is the site, then only within the 100 meters they had kept the area of landing. And this was a very ambitious thing because it is only China who has managed so far to reach 83 meters of distance. However, now it has landed and in the Sholay crater. So they have been able to achieve it. Now, if you see the rover, which is your Pragyan, and two small rovers for it are Lunar Excursion Vehicle 1 and 2. Now let's see what are the purpose. The purpose of Chandrayaan is to demonstrate the ability to soft land and to demonstrate the rover's Vikram ability to move on the moon, and it will conduct in situ scientific experiments. However, with respect to this, they will study the surface and collect temperature and radiation readings and attempt to study the moon's mantle. So these are the important mandates. Okay. Remember this. This is important for your pre and for your mains. This is very important topic with respect to your GS paper 3, safe space technology. So, and since India has also launched Chandrayaan 3 and they'll collectively be launching Chandrayaan 4. So you please be very thorough with it and remember each and every point. This is very important. Now let's move to the next topic, which is your India-France relation. See, as we discussed, it was in news because France was an invitee to the Republic de Paris. Now the outcome क्या रहा मीटिंग का? Defense industrial roadmap. They have produced a defense industrial roadmap. It will be developed for cooperation, defense production के ऊपर and future collaboration. So one of our Rafale, one of the landmark deal between India and France we have from France. Now it include, what does it include? Defense industrial roadmap, identify opportunities for partnership in defense industrial sector with respect to co-designing, co-development and co-production. ठीक है? And they'll also start develop defense supply chains. Okay. Then they are also working towards fifth generation fighter jet. India will be receiving fifth generation fighter jets from France, and it will be meant to power advanced medium combat aircraft. Okay. Now, if you see F414 engine, this is again important for manufacturing. You know, they'll be receiving manufacturing license for this. It will be a sort of technology transfer, and it will be manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautic Limited. And what is the significance? It will power indigenous light combat aircraft Mk2, and which is a variant of LCA which is currently in service. So will it will boost indigenous defense production. Now they also worked signed an agreement on space cooperation, defense space partnership for collaboration in space situational awareness. MU was also signed on coordinating satellite launches. Now, other agreements were on energy, digital health, agriculture, education were signed. The details are not yet out. Once the details will be out, we'll be discussing. And in the coming days, you will be finding many editorials with respect to India and France relationship. Please follow those editorials. We'll also be discussing them here. But you also go through it once. This will help you in developing understanding with respect to India-France relation. And this is seventh meet in last 1 year or so between the two countries. So now this is with respect to your ethics of punitive justice. So we have discussed about Bilkis Bano case, that in very small background if I'll have to give you. So the case occurred in 2002. 2002 Godhra riots. Okay, what happened? There were 11 people who were accused of the gang rape and the murder of the family, and those were supposed to be the neighbors of this lady, and it was a communal and sexual harassment case. Communal and sexual harassment. Okay. Now, sexual harassment case. Now, what happened? They were convicted for around 15 years, and after some time, the Gujarat government remitted the sentence of they were sentence of this 11 prisoners. Okay. However, when the case landed up in Supreme Court said that the Gujarat government didn't had any jurisdiction to provide remission to the convicts. So they state government had no jurisdiction in giving remission. So now, what is the significance of the judgment? What does this judgment imply? So it upholds the integrity of legal process, and it stirred optimism in justice system. It has simultaneously ignited profound reflection on ineffectiveness of justice system. Now here we'll be discussing. It says कि although the faith and optimism has been restored in the justice system, but it also depict the inefficacies within the justice system. So what are the inefficacies they are talking about? Now this is where your ethics part comes in. See, it says they have caught Plato, and many a time UPSC has given such sort of questions in ethics where you can quote him. He is one of the very renowned personalities, and then you can quote him, you can understand, and you can also write such things in your essays as well. So what does it say? He says that punishment is to be inflicted not for the sake of vengeance, but for the sake of prevention and reformation. Okay. And this treatise, Plato reasons that the lawgiver, as far as he can, ought to imitate the doctor who does not apply his drug with a view to pain only, but to do the patient good. And this curative therapy of punishment likens penalty to medicine administration for the sake of one being chastised. See, what does this imply? In simple terms, if it says that the purpose of punishment should not be to take any sort of revenge or put that person behind bar to made him suffer from something. No, the purpose has to be rehabilitation, to do the corrective measures to make sure that that individual realizes his mistake and comes back to the normal life, has remorse, has guilt, and has moved and has left the criminal mentality. So basically, the purpose of punishment should not be to punish the criminal, but to punish the crime and make sure that criminal co- leave the criminal activities. You have to, in Gandhi said, कि you have to fight the crime, not the criminal. Okay, that should be the purpose of the punishment. But in this particular case, what was witnessed when they came out, the people who was 11 people who were convicted, when they came out, there was no sign of remorse, and even they were welcome with garland, and they were celebrated outside as if they are some sort of heroes who have come out of the prison. However, they were convicted for such horrendous crimes.